Okay guys, so how do we stop feeling sad? Now SAD is capitalized because here I'm talking about Seasonal Affective Disorder. It's winter time here in the Northern Hemisphere, and as the dark nights and the short days come in, a lot of people feel different at this time of the year. We kind of go into a sort of colloquial hibernation mode. We all start feeling a little lethargic, we want to stay inside more, we want to just cuddle up and eat food and feel warmth and just kind of not do anything really. And I think most of us feel this sort of hibernation, colloquial sort of hibernation mode. But for some people, this can be a serious clinical disorder. Seasonal affective disorder, depending on where you are, what latitude you are in the Northern Hemisphere, can affect anywhere between 1 and 10% of the population. And this involves some serious symptoms such as feelings of depression, anxiety, fatigue, sleep problems, social irritability and withdrawal, and increased appetite and cravings. And research has demonstrated that as many as 1 in 2 people in the population can feel what is called subclinical symptoms. So they feel these symptoms to a certain degree just through the change in sunlight, just through our days getting shorter and our nights getting longer. So I think all of us can experience this different feeling in winter, this seasonal effect, even if it's just a small degree. So what I want to highlight in this video is 3 techniques that can help you if you are a serious SAD sufferer, if you're in the kind of clinical diagnosis, but even just for those of you who feel that your energy and your vibrancy drops a little bit in winter, here are some techniques that are going to help you get back on track, restore that energy, restore that positivity, and help you get through these dark nights because, you know, before you know it, spring starts to come around. The year starts to wake up again. And then we can get to doing our serious work, our serious engagement, holidays, parties, you name it, it's there for us. So, tip number 1. Here we're looking at your activity. So we've got to really maximize your activity levels. You see, exercise is one of the best natural mood boosters that we have. And this is because there is some interesting neurochemistry that goes on when we exercise. So, when we exercise, first of all, something called endorphins is released. Now, endorphins is short for endogenous morphine. So yes, that is the same morphine you'll get in the hospital. It's the same chemical substrate that is found in its darker cousin, of course, heroin. And it has a similar effect. Endorphins have a similar effect to morphine and heroin. They relieve pain and they give you this euphoria, this high. So when we exercise, we release endorphins. That's where the term runner's high comes from. We release these endorphins and this helps to give us a natural boost, a feel good, a little bit of a zip in our step, a little bit of a high. Also released when we exercise is a neurotransmitter called serotonin. Now, serotonin is involved with feel-good effects and also our willpower and to a certain extent our motivation. And in sufferers of people with SAD, serotonin levels generally dip, and that is where the low moods can come from, lack of motivation to go out and work and leave the house. So when we exercise, we give these serotonin levels a boost. So we bring in some more of that feel-good factor, and also we give our willpower a boost. So we actually feel like we can go out and do things and seize the day and put our hands into all the different pots that we have in our lives. Now, also important to consider with exercise and our levels of activity is when we're doing this exercise. So SAD is linked to a lack of exposure to sunlight, and this has various neurochemical imbalances and changes that I won't go into in this video, but in short, it can all be linked to the reduced exposure to sunlight that we have in the winter. So when we're doing our activities, try to do it with some exposure to sunlight. So if you're exercising, instead of going into the gym and those artificial lights, try and go for a run outside. I know it's cold, but your body will thank you for it. Get that sunlight into you. Try and do some kind of exercise class, or maybe even a sport that is outside, to get that little bit of exposure. So also in this regard is see if you can restructure your work schedule in the winter to maximize the sunlight exposure. So for example, if you're working 9 to 5, you work over the prime hours of sunlight earlier in the day. So if you're someone who works flexi time, or you work from home, or you're self-employed, consider shifting your working hours. So instead of doing 9 to 5, see if you can do 11 to 7. Because then that gives you a couple of hours in the morning when the sun is at its maximum level, it's got maximum exposure, and you can go and do that activity in the sun. Get some valuable hours of sunlight onto you, and that will help give you all the chemical boosts that are impaired when we have SAD. Now, I recognise that this flexibility isn't available to everyone. You might be stuck in that rigid 9 to 5 routine. If that's the case, then just try and make the best of what you've got. So everyone will have a lunch break at some point during the day. That will generally be during the prime hours of the late morning, early afternoon. So on that lunch break, make sure that you get out. This might be going and doing some exercise in that lunch hour, or even just go out, buy your food, and then just sit on a bench and have your lunch. Sit outside and get some of that sunlight exposure. Even if it's a cloudy, miserable day, the sun still comes through those clouds. We still get some of those rays on our skin. So try and get outside whenever you can. Maximize sunlight exposure. So that's our first tip, activity. So allied to this is what we can do with our nutrition. So one of the symptoms of SAD, and certainly something that I think is quite prominent on a subclinical level, is this increased appetite and increased cravings for dense, high volume, high calorie food, particularly carbohydrates. It's as if we're going into hibernation mode, a very ancient remnant of our evolutionary past, perhaps. So to address these cravings, because I'm sure that many of you watching this, you're interested in your health and your well-being, and you don't want to fall off the wagon with whatever nutritional lifestyle you've set up for yourself. So there are a couple of things that we can switch around and change that will help to negate and to alleviate this factor. So when you're eating, try to make sure you have a serving of fat with every meal. So here we're looking at things like nuts, seeds, oily fish such as mackerel, salmon, avocados, even just a little bit of oil like your olive oil, your coconut oil poured all over the food. Because what happens when we eat carbohydrates together with fat, the fat molecules bind to the carbohydrate molecules, and this slows down the absorption and digestion of your food. So this stops you from getting those sugar spikes throughout the day, because when we get a spike and it drops, that's when the craving comes in, and we look for another spike and then we get another craving, and so the cycle goes throughout the day and we just end up stuffing our face the whole day, and that's not what we want. So just by introducing some fats into your meals will help to slow that process and reduce those cravings and keep that appetite more settled. So next tip is going back to when we're talking about serotonin with exercise. Serotonin can also be helped through what we eat. So serotonin is synthesized from an amino acid called tryptophan. And tryptophan is found in high levels of certain foods, such as, again, our nuts and seeds, particularly pumpkin seeds, chia seeds, flaxseed, but also in cheeses such as mozzarella, cheddar, and beef, pork, and seasonal favorite, turkey. So in December, the Christmas parties will be starting. You'll have the festive celebrations. So this is a good excuse to go to those things. Get your hit of turkey, get that tryptophan in your system, and the serotonin will be synthesized from this, and again that will help with the mood boost, the willpower, the motivation that is often a little lacking when we're in a period of SAD. Also on a nutritional front, you can supplement with something called St. John's wort. So St. John's wort has been found by numerous research studies looking at what's called a meta-analysis. So that's taking together all the research and the studies and just kind of averaging out what the results are and seeing if there is anything across the wide spectrum of results. And what meta-analysis of St. John's wort has found is that it is more effective than a placebo for treating depression, and it's at least as effective as pharmaceutical antidepressants, and it also has less side effects than pharmaceutical antidepressants. So St. John's wort, if you go into any herb store or superfood store, you'll find it's just a little plant, and they'll have the tablets or the capsules. Take your recommended dose a day, and this can be a way to supplement to counteract some of the mood imbalances that come with SAD. Now, I will give a word of warning here, a caveat. If you combine St. John's wort with existing medication, perhaps if you're already on antidepressants, or it also has some adverse side effects when combined with the contraceptive pill, just to make you aware of that. So before you start supplementing with this, do consult your GP, medical professional, therapist, psychiatrist, whoever is prescribing you existing medication, just to make sure that everything is kosher. I don't want to be prescribing something to you guys. This is information that you can take and then go and explore it a little further yourselves to make sure that it's right for you. Little caveat there. But coming back to nutrition, just to finish off, another symptom that comes with SAD, Seasonal Affective Disorder, is lowered sex drive. And so what we can do for this in a nutritional sense is we can take some aphrodisiacs. So things like oyster, dark chocolate, there's also a superfood called maca, which you can put in things like your smoothies. These all increase your sex drive. And of course with sex comes a number of mood boosting properties. I'm sure I don't need to tell you that. So introducing these foods to boost your sex drive will help directly with the symptom of lowered sex drive. It also has a knock-on effect with your mood and also your social engagement. And that leads nicely into the third and final tip, which is get socializing, guys. When winter's coming, it's dark, it's gloomy, we're feeling a little low, the best way to lift yourself is to spend time with other people. And I know that you can feel withdrawn and you can't be bothered and you just want to stay in when the winter night comes, where you've got subclinical symptoms or clinical symptoms of SAD. But getting in company with other people is going to activate a range of neurochemistry and even more abstract spiritual constructs that are going to help boost your mood and help you to feel better. If you are someone who is suffering with the clinical symptoms of SAD, there's also support groups out there. You can get in touch with a therapist, a counsellor. Make sure you talk to people about your issues, because there are other people out there who are feeling the way that you do. You know, 1 to 10% of any population. Even 1%, that doesn't sound like a lot, but that's 1 in 100. If you have 100,000 people, then that is 1,000 people who feel the same way as you. That is plenty of people who you can connect with, who you can share experiences with, who you can find comfort and solace with. So make sure that you get out, whether it's just general socializing, or if you need that little bit of extra help, there are support groups, there are people out there who can just help you get through this little bit of a rough time. Because that's all it is. It's a seasonal change, and just recognizing that this is a seasonal change and it's just something to work through. Final note on that, if you are at work, you're feeling lonely, you can do things around your workplace that can help lift your mood. So even just having photographs, pictures of loved ones, maybe on your desk or on your screensaver, on your computer. This has been found by research to boost mood. and also having living things in your environment. So that might be, a tank of fish, or if you work from home, that's a cat or a dog. Even just plants have been shown, again, by research, to reduce stress, increase mood. So just try to spend more time in the presence of living things. Don't get sucked in to your phones, your laptops. Find life. And if you're feeling a lack of vibrancy and a little bit of a lack of charge in your life, then bring that vibrancy, bring that charge from elsewhere. So, 3 tips to help with seasonal affective disorder, whether that's something you suffer with clinically, or if, like I'm sure most of us, to be honest, we feel a seasonal change in winter, and we might be experiencing slightly lower mood, slightly lower motivation, those appetite changes, the cravings. So those are just some simple tips that you can implement right now in your life. There's nothing complicated about those things that I just talked about. They're just things that you can maneuver into your existing schedule and your existing routines, just to give you that little bit of extra support over these winter months. So if you think that you're suffering from any kind of seasonal change, try out a couple of those practices and see what they do for you, and see if they just help give you that little lift, that little extra nudge to help you get through the winter months. So folks, I look forward to sharing more with you in the next video. I'm looking forward to winter slowly passing us by, going through the festive season, spending time with family, loved ones, and then moving on to a new and exciting year with hopefully a lot of new content, new ideas, new teaching to share with you guys. But as always, till then, remember to love inwardly, shine outwardly.